Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about breastfeeding, but before we get to that, you'll notice I'm not in the nursery recording this. I am in my living room. I bought a desk off of Amazon that folds down and can store in a closet, so I finally have a place to sit and record and a desk for classes because now we have online nursing school now. I have one semester left, so things are looking up. I'll kind of show a little video here of what my desk looks like. You can move it around. Sometimes I'll put it in the nursery, sometimes I'll have it out here, but that's what's so great about it is I can fold it and move it super easy and store it since we live in such a small apartment. So Brogan turned 6 months old on the 15th. That means we have made it 6 months breastfeeding. One of my first videos on YouTube was a video of me walking around feeding Brogan, and that is what my days used to look like. In this video, I'm going to be talking about how I got to 6 months of breastfeeding because it wasn't easy. There were a lot of times when I thought we wouldn't make it another month. We are 6 months out, but I want to take us back to the beginning. Breastfeeding wasn't always easy. It's one of those long-term gratification kind of things. Being stubborn is why we're still breastfeeding at 6 months. That's probably like the umbrella that all of this falls under. I've had mastitis twice. I've had an undersupply, an oversupply, battled a severe tongue and lip tie, cow's milk protein intolerance, so I've been 100% dairy free since he was 5 weeks old. I miss milk so much I could cry. Other than those things, this has been the best part of motherhood. In the beginning, you want your baby to be latched as often as possible. Like every 20 to 60 minutes, I would offer the breast to the baby, especially in those early days. Even if they don't eat and they just kind of sleep against you, the skin to skin is great. And babies have super tiny stomachs and they get tired really easy, so sort of just letting them snack as they want to is a great way to sort of get that supply established. We weren't able to do that, and I think that was kind of our problem. I was only able to go see him and feed him every few hours. I was trying to recover and they didn't really let you just hang out in the NICU. So I think if I have another child and they don't end up going to the NICU, I'll just sit in my room and do skin to skin literally all day and let the baby eat as they want to. Babies learn to breastfeed by breastfeeding, and so do moms. In the beginning, different positions were really helpful. You have the standard kind of cross body where head is over here and body is kind of across you, belly to belly. There is football hold where you have one arm, the head is in the hand and you hold like this, and then the legs kind of go around your side a little bit, and you can put some pillows under. We did that a lot at the beginning and it worked really well. The bobby pillow works for different positioning, but I was too tall for it really to work for me. I would have needed two of them stacked up, but pillows do the exact same thing. My favorite and the thing that helped us the most, you can't really do this in the hospital, but once you get home, is side lying position. This is especially good if you are just absolutely exhausted. You can lay a blanket on the ground, on the carpet or a few blankets, lay on your side and let baby latch while also laying on his or her side, and that way you can kind of close your eyes, rest your head, and baby can eat and fall asleep, and you guys are in a safe area. You don't have to put any blankets over you, so that way baby isn't going to be at any risk for unsafe sleep. We did this so much in the beginning and I would just be so exhausted. I felt like I couldn't even hold him. I was so tired. So we laid on our carpet and I kind of just put my arm like this and closed my eyes and fell asleep. And Brogan ate, and then when he was done, he just fell asleep next to me. In the beginning, if you have help of any kind, try to get on a schedule where your partner or your help changes the baby when they wake up at night and then you feed, because newborns really need to be changed pretty much every time they eat, and that way you're not getting up, changing, and feeding. If this is something you have to do, try having a rolly cart with diapers, wipes, diaper rash cream, and extra sleepers next to your bed and a changing mat, and then you can take baby out of the bassinet, change them, and then feed them and put them back, and that way you're not having to get up, walk into another room. That just, oh my gosh, it's gonna make things exponentially harder. You have to kind of learn to not be shy with breastfeeding, and it's hard at first. When Brogan was first in the NICU, they were kind of all right, I'm gonna show you how to do it, and you just sort of had to pull your shirt up and there's 5 people standing around, and it was really unexpected and I was shy and nervous. When we would have family over, even with a cover, I didn't want to breastfeed around them. Even though they couldn't see anything, I felt so uncomfortable. So I would go into my bedroom and pump, bring the milk, and then put it in a bottle and let them feed the baby. And that's fine. But it's best, especially in the beginning, to just kind of let baby do the feeding. If you want a cover, there's some really good stretchy, breathable options. If you are using a cover, have somebody, if you can, kind of hold the neck part open so you can use both hands to get baby latched and hold on to baby, because baby at first is not just going to latch. You're going to have to kind of move their head and tip their chin up and position yourself. They're not going to really know what to do at first. It's going to be a process, even with both of your hands, to kind of open the baby's mouth and move them. As they get older, they know what they're doing and they can find their target in the dark. For now, it's a little bit hard. So try having someone hold the cover open, because that really helped me. If you are just having so much trouble getting baby to latch in the hospital, ask for a nipple shield. There's a lot of negativity around nipple shields because they do kind of prevent breast emptying, but Brogan could not latch with that one for about 8 weeks. And we would try without it, and he just did not have the oral function to latch without it. We came to find out it was because he was tongue-tied, but that's besides the point. I had 2 of them. I had one in our diaper bag and one that I just kept at the house. I literally brought them everywhere with us. The nipple shield was a game changer, and the lactation consultant at the hospital can definitely get you one. You might just have to advocate for yourself a little bit. It's not a forever fix. You will have to wean off of it eventually. A lot of times you'll notice that when it's time to wean off, it feels like you don't even need it anymore. I would try every so often to have him latch without it, and then one day he got it, and the next time he didn't. It seemed like he was getting it more often and more often, and then I actually lost it, and we had about a week of struggles, but we were pretty much almost there anyways, so you'll know when it's time. My next tip for successful breastfeeding is find an infant chiropractor and get an oral assessment done. I was shocked to find out that 3 lactation consultants, 2 nurses at the hospital I delivered at, 2 nurses at the children's hospital he was at with the NICU, a neonatologist, and his pediatrician all told me that he did not have a tongue tie. I was having all the symptoms of a tongue tie. I was having severe pain with every feeding. I was slanted after he would unlatch, like everything was slanted, and that's like a really big sign that something's not right. I was having bleeding and bruising after feeding. His mouth would click while he was eating, and milk would like shoot out of the corners of his mouth. He was hiccuping a lot after feeding and was just getting so much air while he was eating. Everyone kept telling me basically I was crazy. It wasn't a tongue tie. They would lift up just the tip of his tongue and they were like, yeah, it's not tied. Well, there can be a posterior tongue tie. And I brought him to a pediatric chiropractor. Well, she's just a chiropractor, but she also sees kids and infants. And she took her fingers and just put them like alongside his tongue and lifted up. And the frenulum under his tongue went white. Like she couldn't even barely lift it up and it went white. So there was like no blood flow going to it. She looked at me and was like, he is severely tied. Like, thank you. Somebody sees what I'm talking about. I knew something wasn't right. She gave us a referral to go to a pediatric dentist. It got lasered, and this was when he was 3 months old already. Within that week, he was talking more, babbling more. That night, after it was fixed, we got it fixed at like 9 in the morning. That night was the first time I ever had a full feed where I felt full, I fed him, and I felt empty after. It was day and night difference. Signs of a tongue tie are nursing blister on the baby's lip because they're lip feeding, like they're trying to latch on with their lip because they can't form a good suction in their mouth. They have a side preference, clicking while eating, milk leaking out of their mouth, hiccups, the top lip not flaring up and out is a sign of a lip tie, which he also had. It would always curl under when he was feeding. You know, they want a good deep latch. The nipple should be almost like touching the back of their throat. He was not getting that. He was latching onto the very end because he couldn't lift his tongue up to get a good latch. Advocate for yourself. If you feel like something's wrong, something is probably wrong. Don't be afraid to go over your pediatrician's head and go to someone else. I recommend almost everyone find a chiropractor that is skilled in infant oral assessment. I don't think we would still be breastfeeding if it wasn't for her. We were trending towards exclusively pumping because he would eat and I still felt full and he still seemed hungry after, and after getting that fixed, I only pump now when I'm at work or away. My next recommendation would be if you feel like you ever need kind of like a boost in supply and you are already hydrating a lot and drinking body armor drinks, eating oatmeal, eating a healthy diet, and you just feel like you're not producing enough. A, stay away from mother's milk tea or fenugreek products. They cause 50% of women to have an increase in supply and 50% of women to have a decrease in supply. I don't like those odds. I was drinking the mother's milk tea and I felt like my supply was not good, so I feel like it was actually decreasing my supply. Look into Legendary Milk products. They are amazing. They don't have any fenugreek in them. They're vegan. They're just supplements you can take, and their website has a ton of information. You'll naturally, over the course of breastfeeding, have dips in your supply. So I have a bottle all the time and I'll take a few of them and my supply will boost. Gets me through that dip and then we're right back to where we were. My favorite products are Cash Cow and Milkapalooza. I'll put a link to those in the description below. I'm not sponsored by them, but that link will be a referral link. You don't have to use it. You can totally just search the products in a search engine, but if you do use those links, it will help me out. I wouldn't recommend something I don't genuinely love. I went through so many bottles of that stuff when we were still dealing with the tongue tie, because if you have a tongue tie and they're not draining you completely, you're not going to be producing enough because your body's going to think they don't need that much. So highly recommend their products. Another good tip in the beginning is is use a haka on the other side that you're not feeding from. You want to flip the like flange top part back and then squeeze all of the air out. Center it. I can't film in this environment. Like I was saying, take the haka, flip the top part back, squeeze the air out, center it on yourself. It will catch the letdown on the other side and you can collect this milk. And then over time you will have enough to have baby take a bottle if you're ever not there, or if you want to give up one feed in the middle of the night. Oh my God. Nope. Something that resonated with me when I was 4 weeks postpartum, I saw a quote online that said, feed the baby, not the fridge. I was going back to work at 6 weeks postpartum, so I was nervous about not having enough milk in the fridge. You pump while you're at work, so you really need enough milk to get you through the first day. Then you're only going to be having baby eat whatever you replace while you're at work. Babies take 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces for every hour mom is gone. As long as they're not feeding your baby like 25 ounces while you're gone, you should be able to replace that while you're at work the next day. So don't stress about having this ginormous freezer stash unless for some reason you're expecting to not be able to breastfeed after a certain point, like if you have a surgery planned or something that would prevent you from continuing breastfeeding. Stop scratching the table. Nursing constantly helps to establish your supply, even if it feels kind of like overwhelming in the moment. Babies have little bellies when they're that young and they need to be fed often. It's all about supply and demand with breastfeeding. If you're consistently feeding your baby and your baby's taking 30 ounces every day, like you don't know that, but let's just say 30 ounces. Your body knows to make 30 ounces every day. If all of a sudden you leave for 8 hours and you don't pump, and then, you know, baby takes 20 ounces from you and 10 ounces from a bottle or whatever, your body is going to think baby doesn't need as much now. So your body is going to start to produce less. That is why it is so important to pump anytime you miss a feed. You need your body to know baby still needs just as much as they needed the day before and the day before that. This is why supplementing with donor milk or formula can be kind of a dangerous slope. You're supplementing because you feel like you're not making enough, but you're kind of telling your body to make even less. I don't in any way want to like talk down on supplementing because we had to do it too in the beginning, and I just think that when you supplement you need to make sure you pump every time, because otherwise you're going to just keep having to supplement. Like supplementing or triple feeding where you feed and then pump and then feed in a bottle, that is not long term. You need to go into that with a plan of how you're going to stop doing it. You can't just be like, oh, I'm just going to supplement one feed. Well, for how long? Until you get on some supplements to increase your supply, or until you can get in with an IBCLC and get an assessment done, or until you can get his tongue tie released or whatever. I didn't understand that before I started breastfeeding, that it's supply and demand, and if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So just a little helpful tip for anyone that's kind of like confused on that. Always offer dinner then dessert, and I actually just started doing this a few months ago. I didn't always do it, and it has helped my supply a lot. If you feed baby on one side, feed until they stop and then switch them to the other side. They might not take it, they might just fall asleep, or they might fight it. You don't have to force them, but offer it. Another thing that has helped my breastfeeding this far is having nursing covers. When I go to Target, if I need to feed him, I don't stop and sit down and feed him. I just put the cover on, hold him crossbody, and latch him under the cover, and we just continue walking. It has made my life so much easier, and I feel like if it wasn't for that, and if I had to stop every time we went out, I would probably go out a lot less often, and then life would be harder. This is a big one that I feel like has kept me breastfeeding, is knowing that a lot of healthcare providers are not knowledgeable about breastfeeding. IBCLCs are going to be your biggest resource. I mean that in the best way. Do your own research on things. An example is, like I said, he has what I think is CMPI, like cow's milk protein intolerance. It's well researched and studied. Milk protein, like cow's milk protein, can pass through the breast milk. And there are babies that have near anaphylactic reactions just from this casein going through the breast milk. But we took him to an allergist yesterday to see if he was allergic or just intolerant. And this pediatric allergist told me that no allergens or no food proteins pass through breast milk. That's just not true. I'm in a group where thousands of moms have children with food allergies that react through breast milk. So all of these moms have to be like peanut free or dairy free. And yes, in some instances, moms who have a peanut allergic baby can eat peanuts and it doesn't affect the baby. I don't think it's a standard across the board situation. Especially with intolerances, he definitely reacts when I eat. He is one way way all the time, and then rarely, you know, you slip up and you accidentally get something you didn't know had milk in it. That night is miserable for us. Another reason I am still breastfeeding today at 6 months old is I became a mama bear about breastfeeding, just like I did about my baby. If I was sitting in a room and someone made me feel weird about breastfeeding, I made them feel weird right back. If someone is like, are you really gonna do that in here? Make them feel weird. They're the weird ones for being weird about it. Another very important thing is if you are going back to work or you are leaving baby with anyone and leaving pumped milk in a bottle, don't let people overfeed your baby with a bottle. Use the slowest flow nipple you can find, and don't ever give more than like 4 or 5 ounces in a bottle of breast milk. You need it to be something that you can keep up with. If grandma is watching your baby and she gives 8 ounces every bottle in a size 2 nipple and he can drink it down in 5 minutes, well, babies don't get nipple confusion, they get flow preference. So they're gonna want that bottle that they can suck down in 5 minutes and be done, because they don't want to work as hard. I use like a size 0 nipple, and we never do more than 4 ounces. Breastfed babies don't eat until the bottle is gone, they eat until they're full. You'll just keep making more, so they eat until they're full and then they stop. You know, you want to follow his cues, but don't start doing big 8-ounce bottles when you're not there, because baby is going to get used to drinking 8 ounces, and chances are you might not produce 8 ounces every 2 to 3 hours. Like, that might be too much for you to keep up with. You might blow through your pumped milk supply too fast and end up with a baby that gets frustrated at the breast. Sorry for the lighting change, but he's trying to rip our blinds out. Cluster feeding doesn't mean that your body isn't making enough. It just means that your baby's trying to communicate with your body. Maybe your baby's going through a growth spurt and needs just a little bit more. That constant feeding is upping your production a little bit. That way baby is getting what they need. It might feel really exhausting, like, oh my gosh, he wants to eat every 20 minutes or every hour, but it will pass. It will not be forever. Nursing isn't just food, it's comfort and security for a baby. If they're just kind of like learning a new thing and going through a lot mentally, they're gonna want to nurse more. They just need that comfort and that closeness. Well, my camera battery died, so that was like really cool, but I'm gonna give you guys my final thoughts on why I think I'm still breastfeeding now at 6 months. On average, 1 to 5% of women cannot breastfeed. Sometimes that means they've had a surgery, nothing happens when they try to breastfeed, or they're taking a medication like a blood clotting medication or chemo, and they just cannot breastfeed because of that. And that is one thing. I think more often than not, a lack of support is what causes breastfeeding to fail. Many moms get so burnt out from breastfeeding in the beginning because it is like, it literally feels so constant and you're trying to recover. And for the first 2 weeks, I remember every day for 2 weeks thinking, this is so painful, like, why? I read somewhere if you can just make it 14 days, you can make it. And I remember on the 14th day thinking, okay, that feed wasn't that bad. And then it just got better and better. It's a lot. It's a lot. There's no one arguing that it's not a lot. And I had a conversation with a family member this weekend, and she was saying that she couldn't breastfeed, but then, you know, later went on to say that she didn't want to, and that is fine. You don't have to want to breastfeed. I think a lot of new moms or moms that are, you know, pregnant, they hear that I couldn't breastfeed, and I remember I thought, like, I hope I can do it. I hope my body is able to, and more often than not, your body is able to. And I know breastfeeding doesn't have to be all or nothing, and breastfeeding doesn't have to be more than a week long if you don't want it to be. Like, I'm not trying to shame anybody, but I think a lot of times it's a lack of support, whether that be like IBCLC support, like you can't afford to go to an IBCLC, or you can't afford to get the tongue tie checked out and fixed. It's just so many different things, and it causes breastfeeding to fail. But I want you to know, first-time moms or pregnant moms, you can do it. I hope, you know, you can do it. I believe in you, and you know, you're doing your research. This random stranger on the internet believes in you. I think a lot of times moms quit because of their emotions, or your mental health is just all over the place. And know that formula is not poison. You can absolutely switch if you feel like you want to. I see a lot of people that share breastfeeding support posts, get comments that say like, moms that breastfeed, they were just lucky. One said like 45% of women can't breastfeed, and that statistic is not true. If you're concerned and you're already doing this kind of research, you're doing an amazing job. Get with an IBCLC, find some in your area. Some are doing Zoom assessments right now, and it'll be so worth it if that's what you want to do. It's so easy now to feed him. My feelings and opinions on this are just mine, and you might feel completely differently about all of this, and that's totally okay. Hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully there are some tips in here. You know, it's taking me 6 months to learn all of this stuff. I like to think I'm at least decent at it now. If you like lifestyle content or new mom style content, he doesn't even want me to say it. He's like, that's so cringe, Mom, please stop. Yeah, check out my channel. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. You wanna do the outro? Say bye, guys. Say stop watching little baby bum and look at the camera. Bye, guys.